From February 2023 to September 2024, I worked on a total of 4 software projects, and I ended up abandoning them all, every single one, because of a syndrome called shiny object syndrome that you may or may not suffer from. The symptoms are not being able to stick to one thing and constantly wanting to look to the next shiny object, as the name suggests. So let me tell you what happened. I first was configuring a little platform that would be the next big YouTube. Right, this was the idea, is that I would configure a platform that would be called Stars, and I worked on it for about 6 months, and then eventually abandoned it for a new opportunity. And you know, I didn't even look at how hard it was. I just really thought like that's not really what I want to do, because there's so much that comes with managing a platform like that, and I was really interested in AI primarily. So I decided, hey, what if I try to do something like this company? This does not look like ChatGPT. This is supposed to be ChatGPT, right? What if I do something like ChatGPT? I have a machine learning model that is like tuned and, you know, like trained. Uh, I train it on my own. So to people who actually know how machine learning models work, they already hear that this is outrageous, because I was thinking of making my own machine learning model. That's not how it works. That's an entirely separate story. So then, after some time of trying to train it and of trying to do all this stuff, I realized that you cannot grab a lot of data and then train it and then like try to make your own machine learning model, because it's a very difficult thing. And so I decided, well, you know, it was very fun trying to design something like a machine learning model. How about I just make a course? Maybe you can still find a link on my channel somewhere. A course where I teach people how these machine learning models work in detail and tell them how to code one up themselves, like a little mini version that they can use. So that was the idea. I would make a video course, kind of like a coding course, coding tutorials, right? And then after some time, I got bored of it and I switched to a different opportunity. Now, this final one, and by the way, the course is technically not a software project, but bear with me. I make the rules of what we consider a software project and what we don't. So, you know. The next opportunity was making a very simple application, because I realized, wait, I actually want to code. I don't want to make YouTube courses. I want to code. And then I thought, okay, the next big step, that's supposed to be VS Code, okay, is to make a little application like GitHub Copilot. That would be just your AI assistant over here, like it would be an extension over here that works alongside you on brainstorming how to like code and everything like that. Here you got your tab. Oh my God, 1 second. Here, oh my, tabs, right? And it would be just a very simple program that helps you like brainstorm on all these things. And it would be very advanced, and it would be like more than just autocomplete, but it would be actually intended to brainstorm with you, plan with you, all these things. And that was the idea. I abandoned it as well. And so those were the 4 things. And I will break down the 3 lessons I've learned from this, and perhaps that will be helpful for you. So first of all, I don't know if you're familiar with somebody called Alex Hormozy. He gives some good advice sometimes, and what I learned from him was something called 5 stages of something. First step is when you have uninformed optimism about something that you want to do. So that's me. Oh my God, yes, I should really try to make my own machine learning model. I should really try to make the next big YouTube. I should really try to make a course teaching about machine learning models. I should really try to make a VS Code extension. That is all in uninformed optimism. So you don't know anything about the opportunity, but you think it's a good idea. And so this is what he was describing. And then informed pessimism. You're like, oh wait, hold on, this is actually harder than I thought. When you start to realize the problems with it, like how much difficulty there is to it. Then three, valley of despair. It's not really despair, but you look around and you think, what am I doing? I could be doing something else. I could be coding instead of making this course. I could be making my own machine learning model instead of making like my YouTube platform or something like that. Then four, which is as he said, as Alex said, that most people don't get to, is informed optimism. Informed optimism is when you're like, oh, okay, I understand that it's difficult, right? But I understand what I can do to achieve it. And then five is, as he said, is achievement, right? And so I saw that exact pattern in myself, as I just described, is that like I would think, actually this kind of YouTube like platform, that's not a great idea. Just get me onto something else. And then I looked at OpenAI and I looked at what they were doing and I thought, you know what? That's actually pretty cool. That's what I would like to have. Like, I was literally just thinking in terms of how would people perceive me, and not how would people perceive me, but like what was cooler to me, and not really weren't wondering about what really people thought that much, but in terms of what I thought was cool to do. And so I thought it would be cool to make my own machine learning model family. And so I would jump to that opportunity and try to like make something like a GPT, but my own version, and then train it on data, and then somehow, I don't know, man. It's a whole different story as to how I came to that conclusion, but um, it's even embarrassing to say now. But that's the next opportunity. Then I try to do it. I try to train it. You can even look back in my channel history. I was like, oh, I can't train it and all this stuff. And then I realized that it's actually very difficult. But then I thought it was actually very cool to do them. And perhaps I'm doing something wrong, or like not doing something wrong, but like maybe I can't do it. Let me just teach people how to do it for fun. I make a course instead. And then I realized, wait, I don't want to do this. I want to code. And then I realized in the course that I had flaws in the course in how it was like built, and the modules that I taught, there was incorrect information in them. So I was like, okay, scrap that. I want to code anyway. So VS Code extension sounds like a very simple and small and novel like idea. Then you could expand into other extensions, into other code editors, and then you can make it a Chrome extension for, I don't know, for whatever purpose, and then make it a desktop application, so on. So it was just a little modest idea, and you could do that. And then I eventually crossed that out as well because I just didn't like it, and I just thought like, what am I doing here? That same each time, with each time there was this what am I doing here kind of question. The valley of despair is when you start questioning it and thinking that, wait, hold on, you know, uh, where you think you're making sense but you're not making sense. Um, and the lesson to myself here was to actually push through. Some opportunities are actually worth pushing through. So like the YouTube like platform, of course, it's a very like like an unexpected kind of like how would you do it solo and everything like that. But technically, if you really like niche down and you make it proper to one kind of audience, then it would be probably possible. But you never know that because you skip through it, next opportunity. And so that's for me at least the lesson is to push through, is to and how what does it mean to push through is to actually research more about the opportunity, because because at least I noticed is that when I want to switch to something else, it's actually because I don't know enough about what I'm trying to do, a lot of the time. So technically, I could actually try to do this course thing. I could price it at a very modest price, like $5, and just teach people how to code it up and maybe fine tune it, like make small models to fine tune and not make my own machine learning model family, but fine tune it for their own specific purpose. And like, I could do that, technically I could, and it would be a viable option. But I just didn't stick through. and with the YouTube like platform, some opportunities, at least I have noticed, could be worth pushing through. It's just that I was jumping around all the time. And so that's the lesson to myself, is that push through, and practically what that means is research more, because you probably don't understand more about it. And you should like research it more to understand what it takes and all that stuff. Point number two is sometimes switching is best. This is probably more specific to me. I don't know how you might find usefulness in this, because sometimes switching is best. So yeah, and I will use the GPT case as a primary example. So sometimes switching is best is because some of the opportunities I try to pursue were actually impractical. So if I actually stuck to the original idea that I would make my own machine learning model family with like no resources of the major companies that do this, then I just wouldn't be able to do it. And sometimes switching is best because I really went fully deep into this idea of making my own model without understanding the resources required to make it, without understanding the research required to do it. And research means like machine learning research ML, machine learning research about like what actually makes the model's performance go up, and which adjustments to it would be best, like which layer to add in the neural network. And yeah, resources is essentially, yeah, financial resources, because it's a lot of money to host and all of that stuff. And so without understanding that, and you may be actually looking at this and laughing because you know how much actually resources it takes to build a model, and you'd be thinking like, what the hell? Whoever would have thought to make their own machine learning model? But yeah, but I did. So, and I actually didn't understand all of this, and because of that, it was a detrimental opportunity, or not detrimental opportunity, just an impractical one. And so the lesson here is to, maybe you guessed it, maybe you did not, the lesson to myself here is to research. Because at every stage, I've noticed that researching helps. Um, and when you actually understand, and I'll write that over here, and understand. When I understand something that I'm doing, and I look at the pros and cons, and I look at, okay, this is actually a good opportunity, or this is not a good opportunity, by evaluating pros and cons, and maybe switching some things that I would do in this, then I actually understand whether it's worth pursuing or whether it's not worth pursuing, whether it's worth switching, pivoting, something like that. And so with this thing, had I done research in the beginning and realized that it actually requires lots of resources to do it, then I would have understood, and that people usually don't do it. Like when I see people actually I made my own machine learning, I made my own GPT or something like that. It's just they took a existing one and pre-trained it on a small data set. They didn't create one their own with random weights. And so, had I just known that, I would have avoided that opportunity. And so now I realize that um, really understanding your opportunity is best at any stage, because when you fully understand it, when you research it, you can evaluate whether it's important to stay or whether it's important to switch. And the third and final lesson is about uh, failure. Truthfully speaking, when I address my case about actually wanting to make a GPT, now I'm kind of thinking that it's slightly embarrassing to say on the internet to all random strangers, because of the fact that it's just so impractical that when you actually understand what it takes to make a machine learning model, and I still don't understand it because I'm not a machine learning researcher. These projects are not failures. So before, with doing these things, and after each time I switched, I sort of felt like I was letting people down around me, because I would tell my friends and family about new opportunities. I would tell them about these new opportunities, and they would be like, "Oh, okay, I guess, yeah, you can go ahead, sure." And then after some time, after the second time, third time, fourth time, fourth, no, third, they start to think like, bro, what are you doing? You know, you're sitting here for, that's like 1.5 years. Now in 2025, that's pretty much 2 years. They'll be saying like, you're sitting in front of your laptop and working on something. What exactly are you doing? Like, it's like, oh, you can call them haters or whatnot, but it's true. Like, you're just sitting there, you're telling them, I'm going to make it or something like that. And I'm sitting here and saying that and then switching from one opportunity to the other. It's not really helpful. It's not helpful. I mean, it's not, um, you're not standing on business, you know? And so I felt like that was, I felt diminished by it when I told them, and then they like subtly think, oh my God, another thing this guy's doing. And also, I kind of thought that failure is part of the journey means that when you begin and when you actually have a successful some kind of software that and you grow it out and then you try some kind of marketing strategy and then it fails, that's where you learn. In reality, this is the learning. This switching, uh, shiny object syndrome is the learning. Like, okay, let me just rewrite this. You don't start when you succeed. When you see success. When you see success, you start when you start. Very straightforward. And the failure is the learning. So maybe you always heard this, like, oh, you should learn to embrace your failures. Uh, you should learn from them and all this stuff. Maybe you thought that was conceptually a good idea, and when you fail, you're going to learn. But I heard this and I thought, yeah, that makes sense. But then when I actually had that failure, I was thought like, oh my God, this doesn't really feel good. You know, I really have to get myself together and actually focus on something. And thinking, okay, now is the time I'm going to start, right? As if discarding everything I had done before, not realizing that everything that I had done before actually gained me coding skills. It gained me understandings of which ideas are good and which ideas are not. Understanding of many spaces, like machine learning and new trends in like, you know, GPTs and whatnot, and all these models that are coming out now. Understanding how they work fundamentally, because there's many people that are scared of AI taking over. When you actually understand how they work, you don't fear anymore. At least I don't. I understood how to build websites, build extensions, and like make a video course. That's also helpful knowledge to be able to like teach and stuff like that. All these skills that I learned. And sure, maybe I didn't actually employ them, but they are part of the learning experience. I cannot just discard them and say that they never existed and say, okay, well, I'm going to start now. Like the second I actually release some kind of project, some kind of app into the wild, that's when I actually start. No, I start when I start, when I first began coding that first project. Whether it was successful or not in the end, it doesn't matter. And so to recap for myself, if I'm ever feeling like this is hard and maybe I should switch, research more and understand it. And then when you understand, push through. Because sometimes opportunities are worth actually pursuing, and I might actually find something that's useful and is actually going to give merit. Um, and then second, sometimes opportunity are actually worth throwing away and switching to a different one. And you should research to understand that. And when I research, I understand it better, and I can understand whether it's worth sticking to it, whether it's not. And then three, shiny object syndrome is not a curse, or I don't know how to say. It's not a failure. It's part of the learning process, and then eventually getting rid of it is also part of the learning process. And every failed project that I call failed is actually a learning opportunity. It's actually a way to learn from it. So that's it. 3 lessons. Thank you.